What's cracking everyone, Titanicllama here, and in this video, I want to go over the one, the only, the dreaded Alchemy. Now in this video, I'm not going to be going over late game or Sweatlord end game Alchemy, as that's worthy of its own video, and if that's something that you would like to see, let me know in the comments down below. Instead, today I want to focus on more early to mid game Alchemy. What you should be focusing on unlocking, the most important bubbles to level up, and ultimately how to set yourself up for success in the long run. If however you've clicked on this video looking for a detailed breakdown of the alchemy skill itself, what all of the tabs are, how to interact with them, what they do, all of that good shit, then go and check out the alchemy section of my World 2 Beginners Guide. You can find all of that information there, and I'll leave a link to that video down in the description. This video, however, is more focusing on progressing through the skill itself. And the best place to start is with today's sponsor, Raid! I'm fucking with you. So anyway, you've just gotten yourself to World 2, you've thrown a couple of guys into the cauldrons. What's next? Well, let's get into that, shall we? The very first thing that you will want to do is pick a main character that you will primarily use to push through to World 4 on. Feel free to pick any of your characters as long as it's your barbarian. All jokes aside, you can choose any character, but I would highly suggest you use a barbarian until reaching World 4. The reason for this is twofold. It allows us to farm effectively early on, while also being the fastest class to push on thanks to Monster Decimator. My ideal setup for the very beginning of Alchemy is to have a barbarian and a bowman pushing through World 2, a warrior mining copper, a mage chopping oak logs, and another one chopping bleach logs, and finally a hunter farming green mushroom caps. With this setup, you will be collecting every resource that you need to level up the first two bubbles in the orange, green, and purple cauldrons, while also unlocking the fruit flies map for your bowman, which will become important later on. As you progress further into World 2, your focus is going to be on unlocking new bubbles while leveling up the first and second bubble in the orange, green, and purple cauldrons. Your main goal during this phase is to unlock the 9th bubble in both the orange and green cauldrons. These are the FMJ and Chakracy bubbles, and they are your new best friends, or worst enemies. Either way, you're going to want these ASAP. Now, I feel like this is a good time to interject and tell you that I'm not going to be giving out any numbers during this video. For example, get your Chakracy bubble to level 50 by this point, or anything like that, because at the end of the day, you want 90% of these bubbles as high as you can possibly get them, with a few exceptions that I'll outline towards the end of the video. With that said, when you feel like the first and second bubbles costs are getting a bit too high for what you can gather, switch it up. Utilize your characters to start gathering the materials to level up other bubbles. The main bubbles that I would personally focus on at this point of the game are the orange bubbles 3 and 4, which will boost your mining gains, purple bubbles 3 and 4, which will boost your chopping gains, and the third green bubble, which increases your anvil's production speed. All of these are rather important and will help you with your overall progress into Idleon. Some of you might be thinking, Llama, you haven't mentioned the yellow cauldron yet, and that's because we don't really care about this cauldron all that much early on. There is, however, one exception to this. If you have the Sheepy Companion, then you will want to unlock and level up the 4th yellow bubble. This is called Level Up Gift, and it makes it so whenever you level up your character or one of their skills, there is a % chance for a gift to drop at your character's feet. There's a bunch of stuff that you can get from this, though the main attraction here is free gems and free time candies, which are on the rarer side, but they do start to pile up. I can hear the comments already.
If Level Up Gift is so good, then shouldn't we unlock it and equip it even without the Sheepy Companion?
And the answer to that is no. The Sheepy Companion, for anyone who is unaware, will make it so that every big bubble that you have unlocked will count as being equipped on every character all of the time. Without the Sheepy Companion, there are much more important big bubbles that you will want to have equipped instead. And just to cover my bases here, without Sheepy, you want Hammer, the third green bubble equipped on every character. Once you've unlocked the changing the code bribe from this porker in World 1, then you might want to start thinking about unlocking the level up gift bubble, as now you can utilise it situationally. This bribe allows you to equip 2 big bubbles at once, so anyone gathering skilling materials will want to have Hammer and the big bubble that correlates to the skill that they are performing. For example, Wyoming Blood on anyone mining, or Molto Logo on anyone who is chopping. Any character who is not skilling can then equip the level up gift along with Hammer. So to recap, as we progress through World 2, our goals are: unlock as many bubbles as we can, focusing on the orange and green cauldrons primarily, but the more the merrier. Level up the first and second bubbles in the orange, green and purple cauldrons. Once the costs for those bubbles get too high, start to level up the third and fourth orange and purple bubbles and the third green bubble. One last thing I wanted to mention here before I move on to the next section of the video is that I notice a lot of newer players tend to get caught up on the thought that they need to hit certain milestones within the alchemy skill to progress, and this can really hinder some new players. Early on, just focus on pushing bubbles as high as you possibly can with the amount of materials that you can gather, and remember, any amount of levels in a bubble is better than nothing, with very few exceptions, which, as I said earlier in the video, I'll touch on these towards the end of the video. Before I get into how World 3 changes alchemy, I want to quickly touch on a few boosts for the alchemy skill that you'll want to keep in mind and work on as you progress. There are 3 key areas in the Pay to Win tab that will help you progress your alchemy faster. There are the player, the liquid, and the cauldron panels. You will want to pour a good chunk of the money that you are earning at this point of the game into boosting these, as they will help enormously when it comes to progressing into alchemy faster. You will want to try and unlock the vials for copper ore, oak logs, green mushroom caps, and thread, as these vials will each increase a specific cauldron's brew rate. You will also want to unlock the vials for copper bar, jungle logs, and toilet logs, as these will increase your liquid regeneration rate and the amount of water that the first 2 liquid cauldrons can hold, which means more levels, as 9 times out of 10 you're going to be lacking water, not the materials to upgrade your bubbles. There are 3 stamps that you can acquire as rare drops from the monsters in World 2. These are the Alk Go Burr, the Drippy Drop, and the Drop Lots stamp. Again, leveling these as much as your resources allow for is always a good play. I would suggest leaving the Drop Lots stamp for now, as those bloaches will be much better utilised leveling up the Chakracy bubble. The Shaman's Bubble Breakthrough ability is very worthwhile investing talent points into early on, as it will make unlocking new bubbles so much easier. Make sure that whenever you are trying to unlock new bubbles that you are on your Shaman and in the correct spec. Reaching World 3 is huge for the alchemy skill thanks to the 3D printer. Once you have access to the printer, you can really start to target a bunch of different bubbles all at the same time, especially once you have unlocked the crystal 3D printer from the Gemshop. I always like to say that regardless of how you play, as long as you're having fun, you're doing it right. It's a game at the end of the day. That being said, there are more and less efficient ways of playing Idleon, and one pitfall that I see a lot of newer players fall into is using their 3D printer purely to gather resources for the refinery. Now don't get me wrong, salt production is important, but alchemy is the most important skill in the game, hands down. It affects everything in one way or another, so dedicating some, if not all of your 3D printer to gathering materials for bubbles will pay dividends as you push further and further into the game. With that out of the way, what should you be focusing on leveling as you progress through World 3 and into World 4? Well, honestly, there's no right or wrong answer here. There is so much to do in Idleon, and how you tackle the content varies so much from person to person. There is no way for me to make a cookie cutter outline that will work for each and every account. But what I can do is give you a list of bubbles that I'd personally prioritize. Before I get into those bubbles though, I should say that there are other bubbles that you will unlock during this time that are also very good to level up. So if there's a bubble that I don't list, don't feel like you shouldn't level it up at all. I'm more suggesting bubbles that have a big impact on the game and have fairly easy materials to gather, making them easier to level up. A perfect example of this is I'm going to suggest leveling up the Bojack and Brittley Spears bubbles, but not the Maddie Stafford bubbles. These are all the 11th bubbles in the green, orange and purple cauldrons respectively. This is because the salt required to level up the Maddie Stafford bubble is much better utilised elsewhere for the early game. With that said though, let's get into the bubbles. In the orange cauldron, I'd focus on Roid Raging, Warrior's Rule, Hearty Diggy, Wyoming Blood, Big Meaty Claws, Sploosh Sploosh, FMJ, Brittley Spears, and finally, Call Me Bob. For the green cauldron we have Swift Steppin', Archer or Bust, Hammer Hammer, Quick Step, Bug Squared, Shakracy, and last but not least, Bojack. In the purple cauldron, Stable Genius, Mage is Best, Hocus Choppus, Molto Logo, Name I Guess, Brustachio, and Smart Boy Talon are all good options. Finally, the yellow cauldron only has a few good options early on, and these are Droppin' Loads and Larry are both really good options and also level up gift, but as I said earlier, only if you have the Sheepy Companion. Earlier on in the video, I did say that there were a few bubbles that you didn't want to level up. I honestly can't be bothered explaining why for each of these bubbles, as it will drag the video out longer than I want, so I'm going to say that there are a handful of reasons why you shouldn't level these bubbles up. Source? Trust me bro. But these bubbles are Bite but not Chew, Lil Big Damage, Anvilnomics, Matrix Evolved, and Petting the Rift. A lot of people will read what these bubbles do and want to level them up, so I'll at least say this much. One of the biggest reasons you want to leave these bubbles at level 1 is because of a little thing called No Bubble Left Behind, which you will unlock in World 4. This will level up your lowest level bubbles that are also above level 5 once a day, every day, for free, as long as you log into the game. The bubbles that I outlined will ultimately end up sucking up all of these free levels, making it take longer to wrap around to the bubbles that you actually want to hit with no bubble left behind. The last thing I wanted to touch on before I wrap this video up though, is the boosts that you can acquire from within the gem shop and the recently added Pay to Win pack. Okay, so the gem shop contains 2 boosts that you can buy whenever you wish, and these are the Ivory Bubble Cauldrons and the Bleach Liquid Cauldrons. The Ivory Bubble Cauldrons can be bought up to 4 times, and when purchasing these, you will have to select which cauldron you want to boost using these arrows here. You will eventually want to buy this upgrade once for each cauldron. This will allow you to assign 2 more characters to each cauldron while also boosting your brew speed and your new bubble odds by 1.5 times. If you're someone who is willing to spend early on in the game, then you will want to purchase both the orange and green cauldrons first to help with your push towards getting FMJ and Shakracy unlocked as soon as possible, then purple and finally yellow. The Bleach Cauldrons can also be bought up to 4 times, but unlike the Ivory Cauldrons, these will unlock in order. Droplets first, Toxic Mercury last. So again, if you're willing to spend early on in the game, then I would suggest grabbing these, but only as you hit the level requirement to unlock the cauldron that it was going to boost. Much like the Ivory Cauldrons, these boosts will allow you to assign another character to each of these cauldrons while also increasing your liquid capacity and regen rate by 1.5 times. These are also very good to grab because, as I said earlier in the video, 9 times out of 10, you'll be lacking water, not materials, to level up bubbles, so having a higher capacity and a faster regen rate will allow you to level up your bubbles more often, meaning faster progress overall. The Ivory Cauldron's usefulness will fall off towards the endgame once your cauldrons have fully maxed out boosts and your bubbles are all unlocked, so keep that in mind when choosing whether or not to purchase these boosts. The bleach cauldrons, on the other hand, only get better and better as you push further and further into Idleon, so these are very solid purchases. There is also one other boost that will rarely rotate into the FOMO shop, also known as the limited time special tab of the gem shop. This boost is called Dragonic Liquid Cauldron. This works the same as the Bleach Cauldron boosts. You can purchase this a total of 4 times, once for each liquid cauldron, but only once per rotation you see them in the shop. So it will take quite some time to get all 4 of your liquid cauldrons to the Dragonic tier. This boost will increase your liquid capacity by a whole 2 times and your regen speed by 1.3 times. If you've made it to this point of the video and you're just thinking, holy crap, this all just seems far too complicated, then don't stress, the game's got you covered. There is one last purchase that you can make to help out with Alchemy. What's the catch? This one isn't one that you can farm out with time, patience, and earn by farming gems naturally. Oh, no. This is the Sacred Methods pack. For a measly $20 every day you log in, you will have 2 meals from the cooking skill, 5 stamps, 10, yes, count them, 10 bubbles that will instantly level up without you having to do anything. Is this worth it? That is entirely up to you. Hopefully, with what I've outlined in this video, I've managed to clear up some of the confusion when it comes to early game alchemy. And if not, feel free to let me know about it in the comments down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more content if you haven't yet, but with all of that being said, I've been Titanicllama, you guys have been watching the video, and I'm out. Bye!